The Core P90TG from Thermaltake features a unique prism-shaped open-air design so you can ogle your parts from any angle. The 5mm tempered glass keeps things classy, and the 3-chamber design supports a full complement of hardware even if you're custom water cooling. For more on the Core P90TG, click the sponsor link in the description.
Excellent!
Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome to Paul's Hardware. Today I'm going to be testing this gaming computer right here, and this computer's actually been on quite a long journey. I originally built this system at the beginning of 2018 as a solution for people who wanted to build a gaming PC who didn't necessarily have the money to spend on an overpriced graphics card at the time. Now, graphics cards are still pretty overpriced, but they are coming down in price, so we do have more options available now than we did back then. But about a month or month and a half ago, I updated this computer. I switched it from a Ryzen 2200G APU, which is a quad-core 4-thread processor that has graphics built in, up to a Ryzen 2600X, which is a 6-core 12-thread processor. Costs a bit more money, but there's a lot more CPU horsepower available there. Now, since the upgraded CPU does not have a graphics card, we also had to add a GPU, so for that purpose I have a GeForce GTX 1050 Ti installed here with a 4 gig frame buffer, 4 gigs of VRAM. So the goals for today are pretty straightforward. I want to show you how much more performance you get out of this system now in its upgraded form, which will cost you about $900 if you were to build it as is. I also want to show you what kind of difference you get in gaming going from that older system to the newer system. And then finally, I actually used this system to game and stream at the same time, all run on the same system a couple days ago. So if you want to watch that entire live stream, it's a little over an hour, and I'll link that down in the video's description. But I'm also going to show you the performance comparison going from gaming on the old system, gaming on the new system, and gaming and streaming on the new system. Here's a quick rundown of the parts on PC Part Picker. At the top you can see the 2600X, which will cost you about $210 right now. I like the X over the 2600 simply because you get a better cooler, the Race Spire versus the Race Stealth. Of course, if you can find a really good deal on like a Ryzen 1st Gen 1700 or 1700X, an 8-core 16-thread processor, definitely give that a consideration too here. But for my purposes, the 2600X worked just fine, and since I'm not manually overclocking, the out-of-the-box frequencies of this CPU are a bit higher than you get with the 2600 or the 1700. The motherboard is the same, the Gigabyte AB350N gaming Wi-Fi, solid little mini-ITX motherboard for about $110, and actually pretty decent power delivery too if you do want to get into overclocking. That is optional with the B350 chipset. For our memory, we got a G.Skill Trident Z RGB kit, DDR4 3200. Double check whatever memory you do choose and make sure it's compatible with your motherboard. Check the motherboard's QVL list, and I do go over that in the upgrade video if you want to check that out. For our purposes, this is running at DDR4 3200 speed. Now, the kit I'm actually running is cast latency 14, so it's a bit tighter timings than the kit I have linked in the description, but it is $50 more expensive too. So go with what works, and a little bit looser timings aren't going to hurt your performance very much. We have a 240 gig SSD for about $70. This is a SanDisk SSD Plus. There's other SSDs in this range that you can find, but also give some consideration to additional storage. For my purposes today, I have a SSD that's also plugged in via USB 3.0, providing me some additional storage for the games I have loaded up. But if you do have an old mechanical hard drive, consider recycling that into the system to give yourself maybe an extra 1 or 2 terabytes of storage for those bulky video games. If you don't have that, you might consider adding another $40-ish to the price of this computer in order to buy a 1 or 2 terabyte mechanical hard drive in order to add that. The video card is the GTX 1050 Ti, and this is probably the weak link in this computer. A 1050 Ti is a perfectly adequate GPU for gaming at 1080p. This is costing about $190 right now, which is still a little bit overpriced, but not crazy overpriced. If you can increase your budget to about $1,100, you can spend about $400 on the graphics card and leave everything else pretty much the same. And that'll allow you to get a GTX 1070, and there are GTX 1070s for sale. You do have to hunt a little bit to find them, but at least in the past week, Best Buy has had Founders Edition GTX 1070s for actual $400 price. Just have to find the store where they're in stock. Finally, case and power supply. The case is only about $45 or $50. The Core V1 from Thermaltake, solid little case, mini-ITX, gets the job done. And then the power supply I have listed here is the Corsair CX 550 watt, which is an 80 plus bronze power supply, perfectly adequate for $50 to get the job done. Just to point out, I am actually using a Cooler Master V650 in this actual build, and I have that linked in the description too, but about $50 is what you should be spending on the power supply for this system. So if you're just looking at the parts from the core system, system, about $900 is what you would spend, or $1,100 if you're looking at that GPU upgrade to the GTX 1070. I do want to point out though that if you are about to embark on a professional video gaming and streaming career, that you will need a little bit more besides just this system. You'll probably need Windows 10, and I have a video on getting Windows 10 for cheap, about $30, so check that video out too if you're interested. And then you're going to need some peripherals, some accessories. You also need an internet connection, but I'm assuming you already have that since you're watching this video right now. Accessories, so mouse and keyboard. You can get a mouse and keyboard combo for $25 or $30. This particular mouse I've been using, and this is the Master Keys Lite L. I've just been enjoying this mouse because it's very small and very cheap, and actually has pretty good tracking. So there you go, I'll link that in the description. I was using a headset with a built-in microphone. This is kind of a get you started setup for audio, because you need to hear and might not want speakers. There are other mic options, of course, USB attached mics. You can look into a soundboard, but this is a perfectly adequate solution just to get your streaming career up and running. And of course, once you get all your sponsorships, then you can invest in an upgrade of your gear. I like to have a gamepad available. This is just an Xbox 360 controller that's wired via USB. You can get an Xbox One controller that actually connects via Bluetooth, and this has Bluetooth built in, so that's an option. Although Bluetooth does add a bit of latency, so consider your options there if you want to be super pro. And then finally, a webcam, because people are going to want to see your pretty face along with the game that you're playing. This is a Logitech C920, which I consider to be kind of the entry-level webcam for gaming and streaming. Your system will require a little bit of processing performance in order to handle this webcam, so bear that in mind. There are, of course, other better options now than the Logitech C920. Logitech has a C930, and I believe a 4K option, and Razer has options, so there's other ones out there. But if you don't want to spend $100+, you can get that for 50 or 60. So let's talk performance analysis next, and before we get into gaming, let's just talk about the raw CPU performance, since that's a big part of the upgrade you get going from the 2200G to the 2600X. We're just looking at Cinebench Scores here. Cinebench is a very simple free program you can use to test your CPU's performance. 2600X overall score of 1358, which is like a lot more than 565. So that's just your raw upgrade in CPU performance quantified there via a number. Of course, single thread performance is going to be more similar. Now both CPUs are running on pretty much the same architecture, so if you got them to run at the same frequency, if you overclock the 2200G for example, these would probably have similar scores for single thread, but that multi-thread performance is really where it's at when you're looking at this upgrade. Taking a look at CPU mark scores next, overall and single thread, both represented here. 2600X scores 15,085 compared to the 2200G coming in just shy of 8,000, so again, just a massive increase in raw performance. Remember, when you're playing video games, you don't always need a lot of CPU performance, but if you're gaming and doing something else, like streaming, or if you're playing a newer game that's going to actually take advantage of more threads, more cores are very good, just generally speaking. Finally, we have Blender. This is an application that people actually use to render things, so nice to have it represented here. Remember, this is the score or time in seconds, so faster is better. 2600X gets the Fishy Cat render done in 34.9 seconds compared to 73.2 for the 2200G, and only 352 seconds compared to 880 for the BMW render. So there's just some quick hit evidence for you guys to show you the type of performance increase you get by spending about $110 more on that upgraded processor. Of course, you just can't take the processor price difference by itself, because you also have to add in the cost of a discrete GPU, which may be more or less depending on what graphics card you go with. So let's move into game testing. I want to point a few things out from the get-go. One is that I'm testing the $500 PC, and then the $900 PC, and then the $900 PC while gaming and streaming at the same time. I'm using MSI Afterburner as well as Riva Tuner in order to show you guys an on-screen display of the actual frame rate as well as GPU and CPU stats, so you guys can take a look at those for your reference. Finally, all these benchmarks were run live, and I wasn't using built-in benchmarks or anything like that, so it's ballpark comparisons, and I'm giving you ballpark frame rates for what I was seeing versus an actual A to B comparison, because that wouldn't be exactly fair. But starting off with GTA 5, and on the $500 PC it did pretty well, getting about 55 to 65 frames per second on average. Now when we started gaming with the $900 PC, I found a strange issue, which was that there seemed to be some sort of frame rate lock going on, and I was not able to figure out why. I was getting 60 frames per second solid or 45 frames per second solid, and whether I was doing the in-game settings or global settings, it would not fix itself It might have something to do with Riva Tuner. I wasn't able to determine the actual cause, but long story short though, you should be able to get well above 60 frames per second on the system with GTA 5. You just might need to go in and change some of the settings from what I did. When I was gaming and streaming, I actually had the same issue, and this actually first came up while I was doing the live stream. Everyone seemed to notice I was only hitting 45 frames per second and was staying there pretty solidly, versus when you normally play with VSync off, when you'll see some fluctuation there. So I apologize, my GTA 5 numbers weren't exactly what they should be, but I was able to successfully game and stream on the system at the same time, so that's cool. And I noticed, as well as people in chat, that if you looked at the GPU usage while I was doing this, it was way lower than it should be. Usually GPU usage for GTA 5 will be at 99% or close to 100%. This was way less, and the temperature was way less, so I can't exactly say what was going on here. Let's move on to some tests that actually went better though. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. On the $500 PC, we had to set it to very low, pretty much the lowest possible settings with motion blur and VSync off. Even then, we were just barely getting above 30 frames per second. About 27 to 35 frames per second on average was what I was seeing, but then when you would see the game loading in additional textures, it would actually tank the frame rate even more, getting it down to 15 frames per second or lower. And that was definitely happening when the VRAM was maxed out. Switching over to the $900 PC and just doing game testing, not streaming, at low settings, so slightly improved over the very low settings, we jumped up to 65 to 75 frames per second. It would tank down a little bit to in the 60 frames per second range. I noticed when there was a lot of grass on screen. That is has been noted by PUBG players and benchmarkers in the past that it doesn't handle grass very well. But getting well above 60 frames per second in most scenarios shows you the definite improvement you get going from the $500 PC to the $900 PC. Even when you add the task of gaming and streaming at the same time, we're still getting pretty decent frame rates. Actually, only about a 5 FPS, I would say, drop off when playing at low, going from 65 to 75 down to maybe 60 to 75. And then I did also test this at very low, and I was actually getting 80 to 90 frames per second at that very low frame rate. But honestly, PUBG on very low doesn't look all that great. The water looks horrible. So low is a nice step up. Moving on to Fortnite, with the $500 PC, I was playing at lowest settings with motion blur on, and here I must admit that when I originally tested this, I had the frame rate cap on. So it was getting 60 frames per second pretty steadily, which is good if you have a 60 hertz monitor, but I wasn't actually seeing the max performance that it was able to get. Nonetheless, I switched over to the $900 PC, and with gaming only, bumped the settings up to medium, still had motion blur on, and the frame rate was 105 to 120 frames per second. So that's a very nice bump in frame rate as well as in visual quality. And actually, when I switched to gaming and streaming at the same time, I noticed very little impact with Fortnite. And I think Fortnite is a much more GPU intensive game than it is CPU intensive game. In fact, CPU usage was down in the like 10% range, which seems very low. That means when you add the additional task of gaming and streaming at the same time, the 2600X has plenty of additional cores and threads to work with. So it's like, hey, no problem, I'll encode that on the side, and you will see almost no performance difference in your gameplay. So we're only seeing about 100 to 115 frames per second versus 105 to 120. And the final game I'm testing is Overwatch. With the $500 PC, I was using the low preset with the render scale set to 100%, and we were getting 50 to 65 frames per second. Adequate, but could be a little bit better. Overwatch has a ton of display scaling settings and that kind of thing, so bumping the display scaling down to 75 would get us well above 60 frames per second. Overwatch is incredibly flexible in this regard, but I wanted to see if we could get some decent frame rates while also having a good-looking, high-quality game. So with the $900 PC, we went from the low preset up to the high preset. Render scale was still at 100%, and we were getting 90 to 110 frames per second. So from low to high, and from 50 to 65 all the way up to 90 to 110, it was a much, much better gaming experience. And then when we added gaming and streaming at the same time, I think similar to Fortnite, this is not a very CPU intensive game, so there's plenty of CPU overhead left over to do the encoding on the fly. So pretty much the same frame rate, about 90 to 110 frames per second. So I think the gaming and streaming thing at the same time is actually a great way to show how a system that has a lot more CPU processing horsepower can actually be made use of in a situation when you wouldn't get as much performance out of that if all you were doing was playing the video games. It also shows that if you're not interested in streaming or doing something beyond just gaming with your system, like video editing or something like that, you could probably get away just fine with that quad core. And yes, if you're wondering, you could add a discrete graphics card like the 1050 Ti to the 2200G quad core, just in my personal personal opinion. I like jumping up to the 6 cores if you have that option available to you. A couple more stats to show you guys. One was going to be temperatures, and I was using the Race Spire cooler with this CPU, which did a perfectly adequate job, although it was getting a little bit warm at times, specifically while gaming and streaming. It actually hit 88 degrees, I believe 88.5 degrees Celsius max, and at that point it will start to dip the frequency of the CPU a little bit in order to ease off on the heat so that it can be dispersed and keep the temperatures within range, which was okay, but it does go to show you that this system, having been upgraded to $500 to $900, still has more stuff you could add to it in the future. So an aftermarket CPU cooler, maybe something with some liquid cooling, which I believe has a little bit of support in this case if you attach it to the front up there, is a possibility in the future. I was going to do a sound test too, but I don't feel like it's really needed. It is mid-range sound. It's not too loud, but definitely when everything's under load, everything starts to crank up a little bit. But thankfully, when I did my actual live testing, gaming and streaming, I had these headphones on, and even with these headphones, which are open, so I can hear pretty much most of what's going on around me, I didn't notice the noise of the system sitting directly next to me at all the entire time. So a bit of anecdotal noise level performance metrics for you there. But guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Again, if you're interested in building this system, all the parts are linked in the video's description down below. I'll put links to some of these accessories I used as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and of course subscribe to my YouTube channel if you wanna see more videos like this when they are available. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.